Hey, Grace, thanks so much for joining us here. It's really a pleasure to have you.
Hey, man, thank you. Pleasure to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, for those who don't know, Grace Kelly is a singer, saxophonist, songwriter, composer, dancer. I mean, I could just keep going because the list is long. But you guys should definitely check her out if you don't know. And we're just so happy to have you. We were talking a little bit earlier before the podcast started, and I just wanted to say that the whole reason it came to my mind to just have you, we had to have you on, was a couple weeks ago, you were having a conversation with Leo P, another amazing saxophone player and musician. And you guys were talking about the struggles and the overwhelming nature of being a creator and a musician, and especially during this time with everything changing so rapidly. I just kind of wanted to get into that. I think that's a conversation a lot of musicians and creators don't have. I mean, they have privately, but they don't have openly. And I think that's something that was really cool about your conversation with them. So I guess we can start with this whole situation. I mean, how have you kind of changed your workflow, and how are you thinking about all the recent changes with quarantine? How has that kind of made you take a step back and think about being a musician and a creator?
Yeah, man. I mean, everything changed as you and all of our fellow artists, I'm sure, feel and know. It's like all of my gigs from uh March, April, May, they were all canceled or rescheduled, and it's quite a shock when it's like your whole your main source of income and your whole schedule just get like cleared,
Yeah.
so that was, and even now it's like, okay, well, nobody really knows what's happening coming up, so it's still, who knows when we're going to see live shows again. And so I made a pretty quick pivot to figure out, all right, I got this audience online, and I've been building this audience, because my other passion and love has always been to create content. And when I was on the road, I was always like, oh, I really want to get much deeper into my content, but I'm tired because I'm on the road. So it's kind of, it's hard to fully commit to it. And now I was like, all right, well, this is the time. It's like the world is giving it to us. So one thing I started doing was hosting online workshops. And my bud Leo P, we have a collaborative band called Too Saxy, and so we did the first slew of workshops and are still doing them. And man, it was fantastic. Like the first one we announced, and we had lots of cats join us, and we created a curriculum within that workshop. And it was really like a very positive thing for us and for our fans and students, because we're all at home and isolated, and a lot of our students were just feeling down and bored, and they really started to look forward to these workshops. And actually we we do too. We have a blast, and it's like the chat just lights up too, like we're teaching stuff, everyone's learning, but also folks are communicating and joking to each other and just like giving each other advice and being there for each other. And it's really turned into a community, and we call our peeps Sax Gang. Well, they named themselves. And
That's how it had to have to do it. Yeah.
yeah, it just we're like, Sax Gang. We got a whole thing we do with our hands too. It just feels so good to go into a workshop, or we hold weekly office hours, which is our time to we invite all of our gang to send in videos, and then we give them our honest feedback after we watch the video right there in the moment. We give them our feedback on the music part, on their stage performance. We talk about music, um, and it's just been this really, really positive thing. I've been experimenting with virtual concerts as well. I've had quite a few venues reach out to me and wanted to support those venues. And so I would do a show. I wanted to just offer my shows and presence to my fans for free, especially to help people who are struggling,
Yeah.
emotionally. I'm just give them something to look forward to. So I did, at one point I was doing like a stream every day, and now I'm just trying to find the balance, because I mean, as you know, it's like I actually feel busier than ever, which is so wild to say, right? Because like being on the road is so busy, and I never thought anything could be like busier or more tiring. But now it's like, oh, there's so much opportunity online and really cool opportunities, people reaching out, and I want to do all these things and also help get my name out there and the things, and also promoting other artists who are doing really cool live streams. So it's now, all right, what do I want to focus on, and how do I allot my time to that? To get to your question about creating a structure, that has been something really interesting for me. I've been experimenting with how I want to lay out my days. I'm up every day at 8 a.m. and I'm do my meditation, make my coffee, and do my workout. Like, I got my morning routine and it just sets me up for the day, because in this situation it could be so easy to just, have it be whatever. And I think that no structure within kind of a structureless thing, without making structure, it would be tough for me. So I have my morning routine, and then I'm trying to carve out my creative time versus like the admin business time. um I follow some really interesting creatives and entrepreneurs like Tim Ferriss, who talks about like batching, and he's like, all right, on Mondays I'm just going to do my creative stuff. Like on Thursdays I'm just going to do all my emails and blah blah blah. So I'm still trying to figure out what works for me, because sometimes, especially with the internet, I'm working on something and I just get distracted. And I'm like, oh my God, wow, that's cool. Oh, they're doing that. Oh, this is like, oh, another virtual workshop. Oh, wow. And then it's like
Yeah, you
2 hours.
just get sucked in.
Yeah. Or like DMing someone, and I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot what I was doing, So I'm really, and there's also, I don't know how you feel. I'd be curious to know how you feel about this, Kevin, but I feel like with so much screen time, I start to get a little bit grumpy when I'm just looking at the screen. And I realized the other day, like, I got to either integrate more breaks into it, or maybe just do some more manual writing. And then when I do sit down at the computer, it's just like, boom, type it out. But I'm not really used to doing this much sitting and staring at the computer. So that's also like, all right, I'm just kind of making notes of what's working for me, what's not, and then I'll try to experiment and create a little plan for myself. I got my task list and my to-dos. I'll tell you something I really struggle with is my email. It's like, I don't know. I know all about zero inbox and people like having systems for their emails and stuff, but I just can't. I'm not going to say can't, because I know I can, but it's hard for me. I like open it up and I see a slew of things, and then I'm kind of like, ah.
But are you getting sucked in? Are you getting sucked in by like actual like requests to you, or you just mean that because over the years you've just built up, subscriptions to so many things, it's just like it's really just notifications of things, or is it
These
both?
are,
I mean,
that's a great question. I'm talking about like requests.
okay,
Um, can you do this? Can you send this video? Can you? And
yeah,
again, it's like really a question of, oh, some opportunities I jump at and I'm like, yes. And I think those are the ones in my gut when I know I'm excited about it. Like when you asked if I wanted to do this podcast, I'm like,
yeah. I'm glad
yeah,
we made the cut. Then I'm glad we made the cut.
no, heck yeah, that sounds awesome. But the reality of email is you could sit there all day. I'm saying you, but like any individual could sit and do their email all day and feel really productive. They actually haven't like worked on your craft or your art, or so but it's hard because it's such a self-gratifying thing, right? As soon as you send something, or as soon as you have like a clear inbox, it's like, oh, I feel really good. And it wasn't that hard.
Yeah, it's like you're getting distracted with the easier win for
Yes.
the away from the harder, the thing that doesn't get, it's again short term versus long term. Like you're like, oh yeah, I knocked out 50 quick emails, and you feel like you did actually tons of work. But like the thing, like what you're talking about, your craft, yeah, maybe for the hour of input you don't even get a win in that sense, but that's necessary to get the larger long term goals that maybe deeper you want. So 100%.
The other thing I've really so I'll update you when I figure out if I
Yeah,
figure
let me
out
know. I want to.
to do that better. But the other thing that's been helping me for structure is, you know, I really do try to plan the harder thing or the hardest thing that I need to get done or the most urgent thing like before lunch.
Gotcha.
I just have more energy and I'm just one of those people that it's like if I keep pushing it till later, it's just gonna be later and later and later. And yeah, I think it's important to sit down with your creativity and just whether anything's gonna come or not, or creativity or marketing plan or what or making a YouTube video, whatever it is, just like show up and do that harder, do the hard work, you know, the
Yeah.
practice routine, and the yeah,
No,
whether
I
it's
think you're hitting on a lot of things. I mean, one, like you talked about, just to recap, kind of like one, yeah, be aware of your own self and what works for you. Like, so that, and then of course there's some number, like your, whatever, whether it's your circadian rhythm, if you're a late riser, early riser. I mean, for sure, I think we're pretty similar. Like getting up early, getting a physical, get the things that work, really help everyone, which is getting a physical routine into your routine, and also getting some sunlight, getting outside. To what you were saying about being in front of a screen, I think it's also just like you're inside. So you're not even getting, I notice a difference when the days that I'm stuck at a computer all day is the days I'm actually wired into the night. And it's just because my body didn't get the timing of like, hey, you're supposed to get tired now. So I think some of these basics are really essential when they're, like you said, it's the schedule is up to you. And then the last point I think is just that, do you think that it's as terrible as this whole situation has been for the musicians, because it gets rid of the commitments of gigging, which was a huge focus, and just they didn't have time for anything else, that to what you're saying, you really get to sit down and go, wait a minute, what do I actually want? What is my thing? What is the thing I actually want to work on? And like it's almost in a way allowed you to focus on that and really introspect on what you want to do with yourself as a creator.
I
Like
think it's yeah, I think it's an unbelievable opportunity. I'm really actually grateful for this time. And I think it's kind of, and I hope everyone out there is staying healthy and well. That's the most important thing, and sane and happy. But I think kind of the halt that was just put on
yeah,
us
globally, yeah,
create
yeah.
and suddenly the thing that we know the most and maybe is a big part of a lot of people's incomes, or it was just taken away. It just shows like there's this wow, it's an opportunity to take the time to really focus in on what is it that you want to do that you've been saying you've wanted to do but couldn't do because you didn't have the time or because you're always on the road. Is it rest? Is it a new body of work? Is it uh, a new course or a podcast or a video series? Like, so I'm spending a lot of extra time now also like watching YouTube tutorials, trying to get my video editing chops better, working on mixing, like all those things that again was just always like, oh, I really want to be able to. Well, now we have the time. So
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah,
Maybe.
the excuses are gone.
Yeah, so you got the time. This is only, I mean, I can't, nobody can say when it's going to blow over or if it would ever happen again, but I can certainly say it's quite unusual. So take it while
Yeah.
we, I think this is also, for some folks, I certainly have my days that I feel really not motivated and it's tough. So I think it's just, it's balance of like what you said earlier, finding what works for you. Something that helps me is like writing writing it down when I'm feeling overwhelmed. If I want to do this project and that project, I just can't decide. Da, 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 da. And then figuring out from my list, all right, what's the top priority that I think really excites me or helps advance my career or a great business model, and then really focus on those things. I'm trying really hard these days to say no to a lot of things and just focus on um, the things that I want to execute and just do them well. I think, I deal with a lot of FOMO, and I'm sure there's other artists that do it as well. And you're like, okay, I want to be in 10 bands, and it also depends on your goals. If you're a side man or woman, and that's like your love, and you're playing with different people, and like that's rocking. That might be your focus. For me, I'm a band leader. I'm running a business, and there's just a something that's really helping me is just focus on fewer things and just see that they get done well and successfully, and that I have the energy and the output to focus on them. It's also a thing for the space in your brain too. You only got so much capacity, and if you're
Yeah,
all
before you just hit overwhelm. And
yeah, over I see it a lot, man. Even with other musicians that sometimes sub in my band, it's like the nature of being a musician or an artist. You got so much going on, so much juggling. Back when cats were running all around the city playing gigs too, it's just gonna be a lot to handle. So
well,
trying to
let's
help.
get into some of the things I mean, even before all this, everything came to a halt. I mean, I was watching so much of your videos because I wanted to make sure I just knew I just felt like there was so much you're doing. So let's kind of get into that. One of the things I noticed from everything I watched of your playing and your music is just you give off a sense of being completely open to anything. I mean, that's one of the and coming at it with a very positive kind of confidence. And I just wanted to get into like what is the thing you're going for? Because I mean, I found everything from you doing collaborations with, video game music to working with Wolfpack guys, with working, I mean, it just was never ending. So when you're thinking to yourself, like, this is who I am and what am I going for? What is that thing? How do you look at it? How do you think about it?
It's such a great question. I was journaling on that the other day because I'm trying to find a little bit more clarity. I guess that's also a never ending, the beautiful journey of being an artist, that it's this ever evolving thing. I'm still really trying to find a, you know, a super focus for myself. Maybe the fact is that I actually really enjoy tons of collaborations, working with people that I really respect and love their artistry or their performance art. I like to come at things with playfulness and with curiosity. And I really take that to heart when you say what you just said about being open, because, I just find so much enjoyment in learning. And it's so cool to work with other artists who have another skill set or something that they've crafted, that suddenly it's an exchange, of being able to share musically and philosophically. And um, so, yeah, I've been doing a fair amount of collaborations, and I have my band under the Grace Kelly band, and we've done live recordings in the studio. We did an album, Go Time Brooklyn, which we recorded as audio and video, rolled out on YouTube and also on all the streaming and albums. And I'm preparing, I don't know exactly when, but kind of getting back into that first stage of developing a new project. I think with COVID and also the way that I was initially creating these releases, it works out really well to do it in the studio and to you know, have it be streamed to thousands of people. That was something that I found really exciting about the format that I had done for Go Time Brooklyn and Go Time LA. Not only was it streamed to thousands of people, but it was 100% financially backed by all my fans. And that's it's an
Wow.
expensive production because it's a full on like
Yeah.
video shoot and in the recording studio. And just found with the power of the internet and being able to really connect with my fan base, when I did go to them saying, hey, you guys, I have this creative idea and I'd love to see it come to life, and this is exactly how I envision it going, they were like, great, we are behind it and can't wait for it. And it was just like, oh my God, so cool. I get to make this thing that I've been dreaming of, and they're trusting me, like,
Yeah.
I'm saying to all of you, you're my record company. And they're like, great, Grace, go do the thing. And
Well,
so
I mean, it came out amazing. I just have to say, I mean, you took their trust and you did it well. I mean, I checked out all those sessions; they were fantastic. I mean, and they were so much fun. You know what I'm saying? Like that was one of the things I'm talking about. Like what comes across on to the viewer for the first time is just the energy is always, not just because every song is upbeat or something. I just mean like the energy that you're giving, no matter what the tune is kind of like what you're saying. You look interested in every single moment that's happening as it's fresh. And then, by the end of it, you have a dance party, So, the audience is dancing. So I think it was a win. I think you did it right.
thank you. I the reason why I decided to have a small audience in the studio, was probably only like 20 people, is because I know I perform my best in front of people. And there's something that's always been kind of a disconnect whenever I'm in the studio, and there's like, it isn't the same energy. And I was like, my audience has reacted to me the strongest after they see me in a live show. And I really want to give these viewers all around the world this feeling of being there. And my greatest hope for the session is that it would turn into a dance party. And it was so wild to see exactly that happen. And I think it's because we totally set the intention. We had the music. We were just trying to give so much love and vibe in the room. And everything was, it was mainly one takes, but a couple of them are two takes, simply because we had so much music to get through. And I love that adrenaline. I know my band rocks it. So I was just like, we had rehearsed a bunch before, and I'm like, let's hit it, like, show. And but that connection part of performing, I don't even think it's like performing in front of an audience. It's like performing together with, I just want to invite people to feel like they're part of it, to be on stage. Like at every part of my show, I go out in the crowd and I look someone in the eye and I start dancing, and many times they get up and they start dancing with me, and then I keep moving. And it's my favorite part of the show, because it's a moment that I can look someone in the eye and I can see the spark, they just woke up, and it's like this incredible human connection. I get goosebumps when I talk about it, because to me, that is the reason why I play music and why I love to be an entertainer, is to spark this thing in people that, in that moment, it's there. And sometimes it's hard for it to be there, that life force, that playfulness, that energy, that like the safety of like, yeah, like, let's just be humans together and celebrate this moment. And so it's really touching to hear you say that it hit you like that, because I just wanted people to feel this like ray of joy, and we certainly felt it. It was sky high.
Yeah, no, at the end, I mean, with Leo dancing and all you guys, I mean, the band, you guys kind of like rejoiced together in that it all came together like that. The audience kind of received that energy. You guys were just, I mean, tune after tune, you were giving it to them. So, I mean, it'd be surprising not to happen. But let's talk about that. I think that's something that's like really interesting about one of the things that makes you unique is that you're bringing in all these other art forms into what you're doing, and they're all natural aspects of your personality, but you definitely don't shy away from them in the way that I think maybe other performers or artists just kind of go, music's my thing, and I do have, they kind of shy away from these other aspects, but you seem to kind of bring to the front, the dance moves, the fashion, like, so these are things that I don't think take away, they just augment your personality, and they feel very natural. It doesn't feel like a forced thing. Was there a time where you weren't doing that and you brought that into the fold, or was there ever a switch, or it's just always been that way? Because I just feel like it's very natural with what you're doing, and then of course you bring people into the fold who also share that kind of joy.
Wow, that's a great question, and thank you. You know, be in to be in one's own authenticity, that is the goal for me. And that the fact that you said it's natural really touches me because, you know, I want it to come from an authentic place. And when I see other artists that are so in tune with themselves, it just radiates out, and it that touches me. Um, so ever since I was really young, I think I was like 6 years old, my first connection to music was singing and songwriting. I was apparently singing ever since I could talk. I was playing piano since the age of 6, and I wrote my first song at the age of 7, knowing like 3 chords. I wrote like a country song, and then I was dancing. I was doing ballet since I was like 6, and then I was also acting from a really young age with hopes to be on Broadway one day. And so when I was little, instead of playing with toys, I used to just lock myself, well, not lock myself, but close the door and be in a room. I chose to close the door. And I was in a room with just the mirror, and I would have so much fun just making up stuff. And the feeling of creating, and it still feels like this to this day, this feeling of creating something from nothing is so magical to me. So every time my parents came home, you know, I'm like 7 years old or 6 or 7, I'd be like, want to hear my new song? And I just wanted to share it. And they'd be like, yeah. They'd always say, yeah. And then I'd be like, want to see my new dance? Like the next day, I'd be like, want to see my dance? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, do you want to hear this new skit that I wrote? Like, yeah. And it was such a exciting thing for me to be like, hey, I made this thing. And can I share it with you? And then to see other people kind of like see my family light up. And I just fell in love with that feeling. That was like my high. And so I never knew, I didn't think that I would become a professional artist. And if anything, I had my eyes set on becoming an actress when I was younger. Now things took like a turn when I found my deep in my love for music, and my first saxophone teacher was deeply into jazz, which I kind of knew about, but I didn't have like deep roots in jazz. My mom listened to a lot of great Stan Getz recordings, and like they always played Girl from Ipanema, but I by no way, my parents weren't like playing the deep cuts of
Right.
like John Coltrane or anything. So it was my first sax teacher who was just like, man, he was like really hit me with all the cats like Charlie Parker, Johnny Hodges, Coltrane. I'm like, oh my God, wow, this is a treasure chest of incredible art. I don't quite understand it, but I am very fascinated, and let me learn. And I'm grateful that that was my first teacher's background, because maybe if he was like, hey, check out, you know, give me a whole different list of players
You
and a
would have been
different,
somewhere completely different.
yeah, I'd be a completely different artist, because I so trusted my first teacher to be like, guide me, you know, just taking it all in. Um, but there was definitely a time when getting deep into jazz that I was very self-conscious about these other aspects, and I kind of locked them away. You know, I stopped acting. I stopped doing I was doing weekly dance classes since I was little, and I was actually really proficient in tap dancing, which in my very first concert when I was 12 years old, I played the saxophone and tap dance at the same time.
That's awesome.
I can find that footage. My dad has that footage. And then at one point, I put the sax down and I just traded fours with the drummer while tapping. And that was an idea that just came from in my tap dance class. Somebody dared me to do it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. It sounds awesome. Um, but I don't know. I think when I got deeper and deeper into jazz, I was like, well, I don't think there's a place for this. It feels like, you know, and there were some comments kind of coming in that just made me feel self-conscious about those things. And, you know, had the great fortune of studying with my jazz saxophone heroes, Phil Woods, Lee Conants, and with Lee Conants, you know, my gosh, we had these very, very serious music conferences. He'd never call them lessons. They're always conferences. And he taught me so much about the art of improvisation, and just, you know, kind of, we had many discussions of whether one should go down the route of being an entertainer and his thoughts on that versus kind of serious music. And so, with also the things my mentors were telling me, I felt kind of like, okay, I should do it this way. Not that they were telling me to do that way. I just felt this thing within me that, uh, you know, now I've realized that our teacher is, um, if you have a wonderful teacher and mentor, they want to see you spread your wings and really be you, not them. And I did have some really amazing moments with my mentors where they really encouraged me to be me, especially when I was feeling doubt or maybe a bad review came in. Or I remember when Wynton Marsalis said to me, because he's also been one of he brought me on stage when I was 16 years old at Jazz at Lincoln Center. And he said to me, I never read the reviews, Grace. Don't read the reviews. Just do what's in your heart, go forth with your thing. And so I think I started to find more confidence in the past couple of years of being like, you know what, I'm going to try to get back to my roots of the things that made me really happy and made me express, it's built inside of me to want to dance when I listen to music or listen to something that moves me. I want to be a storyteller, and doesn't really matter to me what medium it is, whether I'm singing you something, I'm playing you something, I'm speaking you something. If it comes from my heart and it moves you, and we both feel this connection, to me, I'm like, okay, that's it. We just mission accomplished. It's about connection. It's about feeling emotion. And I realized as soon as I started to add in some of my dance moves, which by the way did not feel natural at all when I first started going back into it. And Leo P was a great inspiration to me to watch how this guy seemed to be so good at connecting his expression with his body, with his playing, with his, and I was he watching him and interacting with him kind of unlocked this thing in me, like, oh my gosh, he's so unique in how he's doing that, and I think just innately it was kind of like, Grace, let's find a little courage to dig back into those things that brought you so much happiness, that brought you expression. And I was so nervous, Kevin, that when I would bring all of these aspects together, when I would sing a singer-songwriter song that was one of my most personal songs, and I'd wear like a pink furry jacket and dance around, and I'd do like a groovy song and a jazzy song, I was so worried that my audience would be like, she's lost it. Like, Grace is just so unfocused, which is some of the things that a lot of the jazz reviewers were saying about me, especially after hearing a lot of my straight ahead work. But the opposite happened. My fans, especially the ones who backed me and wanted to see this new vision of mine, they became super fans. And it was a really, really incredible thing to witness, because I was in so much fear. Even though I was doing it, I was in so much fear of like, oh my God, I have, what if I'm like wasting people's money and they're trusting me and we're doing this big production, and I feel like I'm making this big leap, but I don't really know how it's going to blow over. And man, it's like the opposite happened. My fan base and the new people, the thousands and tens of thousands of new people that were finding me on YouTube, were just reaching out being like, this is so unique. I absolutely love what you're doing. And so that's been really encouraging for me to just try to find myself more. And I think for every artist, this is really, really important that you focus in on your journey, because the world really doesn't want to hear the same stuff, it's about having something different and unique to offer and to expand on. And for every single person, that's going to be a different journey of how to get there. But I know in my case, there's a lot of fear that was wrapped up in it. And I kind of actually, I don't wish I'd told myself. I'm really glad I went through that journey. But thinking back to talking to like um, Grace from the past, I would kind of tell her now, like, No, like this is the path of becoming an authentic artist. To zero in on those things that you feel are unique about you, and you'll find that audience, or they'll find you, that also resonates with that, but it's your job to get it out there.
Right, right. Well, I mean, you hit on so much that I love what you just said, because it, let's not forget, it's true. Like with from the jazz upbringing, like uh, that music is so deep and raises the playing of musicians to such a level. But
Yeah.
there really is a culture that can kind of be very limiting in a certain sense. As expressive as it is musically, it can be very limiting and very closed minded to a lot of things. And I think what's super cool about yourself and a bunch of artists that are coming out during this kind of new age is that, with the help of the internet, is honestly that all of those conventions and cultures being broken. I mean, that's what jazz, my dog, that's what a lot of this, that's what a lot of JazzMemes is about. You know, a lot of JazzMemes is about breaking the culture of like being closed-minded, and it's about being open-minded, that we can all laugh at all of these things, and we can also enjoy all these experiences, and it's not so serious. So I think you're right. I think like that culture did exist, and that you broke from it and had the courage to kind of become your artist, and that there's an audience there. We often just like, I think that doubt and fear tells us that the audience is only what we maybe see right now, but that audience was waiting for you to be you.
Yeah, man. And I mean, I'm sure you of all folks know this um inside out, but it's like I'm reminding other artists that you can reach so many more people with the internet. And, you know, yes, there's a lot of people out there in the world who are into a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And this is an amazing time to craft your vision. And oh, the other amazing thing about the internet and the way that people can put their music out now is like you can really start to just test things and say, all right, I'm going to try this new series, see if I, am enjoying going outside and busking and doing this thing. And here's like 2-minute snippet of this song. What do you guys think? And you'll actually get real time feedback, which was never the case before. If you had to go into the studio and you had a record label and you had a whole release ready and a whole thing for this body of work that nobody's heard before. Now there's just so many different avenues of the way you can test and go about creating your art and developing an audience at the same time, and trying out different things, building your YouTube channel, building your socials, your email list, and yeah, being able to I mean, you don't even have to have an album out there now. It's like you could just release videos
I
and
know. I mean, well, I mean, all this is, yeah. So it's not as easy as it sounds. I mean, it's easy to say, but it's still a ton of work. And
yeah.
but what I would say is just that you're right. Like, I personally believe that this is the best time forever for artists. There's this whole situation has culturally gotten artists educated on that they have the full control, and that their connection with the audience is the most important. And then I think the whole world's realizing like, yeah, you know, maybe it's not about like necessarily TV quality or anything else other than it is just connecting with people. I mean, just playing online in your live streams, people are loving it because they need that. That's a human need, you know?
And content is everything. Like you just said, it's not about the quality of your camera. There's so many cats, right, that are like, what's your equipment on your horn on the camera? And they're just like so fixated on that. But it's not that getting, a really expensive lens or mouthpiece is going to do anything for you if you haven't put in the work, so you could be playing, a a starting Yamaha 4C mouthpiece and still getting a great sound of that. And if you're putting in the work and you're practicing, or you're regularly making videos and learning that, then you're going to start to actually see progress. But it's definitely great content in itself is so key. And that's the thing that I really try to encourage people to try to refine and find what's their style, what's resonating with the audience. Like it's really important to also look at the comments that come in from your potential fans or your fans. They'll tell you, man, it's amazing. Like the sax gang that Too Saxy has, we do on regular, we do like IG polls, we do, DM us, we ask them questions, and we're like, what song should we cover next? It's like I now have a whole spreadsheet of just their suggestions, which by the way fit us so well because they know who we are as a band so well. And it's like you don't have to go very far if you have people who are interested, and get them engaged and start to have this relationship with your fans.
Well, I think you're right. I think that the relationship with your audience is key. I think it's something that is neglected, but now we kind of all realize is essential. I know we could go on for hours. There's so much more. We'll have to do a round two, but I do want to be respectful of your time. Where can people find you if they want to hear your music, find you online, join the Sax Gang? Where's the best place for them to get in touch with you?
Totally. I'm most active on my Instagram, which is at @GKellyMusic, but I also am on Twitter, Grace Kelly Music, Facebook, Grace Kelly Music, YouTube, Grace Kelly Music, and my website is gracekellymusic.com. And people can find out about the online workshops that I'm holding, my own workshops and Two Saxy's workshops. We're going to be doing a lot of those coming up, and just videos, news. I have my email list you can sign up for. So yeah, people come say hey.
Awesome. Well, before we go, we talked about earlier, we have a young audience, and I always think it's wonderful that they look up to artists such as yourself. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Any parting thoughts or anything for our audience, for the JazzMemes fan?
Yeah. By the way, thanks for having me. I've so enjoyed talking with you, and this
No,
has
this
been
is
a
the
real
best.
treat.
This is the
I have
best.
to say, like, there's so much, the thing that's coming to my mind right away, and I don't know why it's this thing. So, but I think it's intuition. So I'm just gonna say it. Like, for anyone who's listening, who hasn't started on that thing that you want to start on, and maybe you're all up in your head, you're just not sure what series to start or how to do it, or well, I want to do this, but this is not the right time, or there's so many thoughts that creep in our head that create excuses. I really just encourage all of you to just get started. Take one step in your process. If you're learning how to make videos, like spend 1 hour watching YouTube videos. And if you don't even touch, you know, GarageBand or Final Cut or iMovie, fine. Like you sat down and you did some of the work. So, execution is everything. I think there's a ton of great ideas out there, but unless you execute on them, they just fill up your brain space and they're just ideas. So just like take that next step in your journey, and it can be a really small step, but I think you'll really feel better once you start to get the motion going. And we all deal with feeling overwhelmed or not knowing what to do, and so a good place to start is to make a list and to just start to take small steps towards that thing that you're trying to create, or whatever's on your mind.
You guys heard it. Take that first step. Grace, thanks so much for taking the time. I had a blast. I learned so much. I'm inspired right now. I'm going to go get on that thing right now. But, but anyways, I'm sure we'll talk again soon. And thank you again for joining us for the JazzMemes family. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a real treat.
Awesome. Have a good one.
You too, Kevin. Ciao.
Bye.